Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome into this matchmaking event of the Smart Cities Marketplace. We're very happy to have you here. Um, we have more than 160 participants who registered from all over Europe and beyond to be here today. We have a lot of ground to cover. What triggered your interest is knowing how to accelerate the transition that you are investing into, the green transition, to reach a climate neutrality, how to find access to funding and financing, how to find the right partner, how to cooperate with an investor in designing your project. So most of these questions we're going to find answer to throughout the day. We have, after this brief introduction, a presentation from the European Commission, followed by a panel with some very good representatives from other European Commission initiatives and also an investor. And then we have 4 parallel sessions focusing on how to address the financing issues with an application, because at the moment the Smart Cities Marketplace has an open call for applications on the website that you're all welcome to join. It is very user-friendly. We also have sessions on clean energy, where you will be presented with examples of inspiring good practices and approaches for cities in transition. And then also on sustainable mobility, you will learn a lot about interesting projects being formed that you can take example from or even join. To make things more interesting, we also prepared the agenda in a way that you could have some networking through the platform. So we have a coffee break at 11 for 15 minutes, then at lunch, and then again at 2:15. So all these moments, and at the end of the event as well, you can dedicate them to have meetings with other peers and discuss opportunities. We aim to finish around 3:15, but as I mentioned, for another hour, you will be able to use the platform for your network. So now, without any further ado, let me introduce you Mr. Georg Houben. He is a policy officer at the European Commission's Directorate General for Energy since not less than 2010, where he is responsible for smart cities and communities and the Smart Cities Marketplace, notably since 2011, being a proof for his enthusiasm for the urban context and its potential for most major EU policies. So, Georg, welcome. Happy to have you. The floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, Luigi, and welcome everybody to this exciting event, I have to say. I heard that we have roughly 160 participants, which is a fantastic number, and I hope that we can provide you with some insight and knowledge and inspiration to go forward with your climate neutral city or smart projects you have in mind. Now, my job is a bit to set the scene. So why are we doing this actually, and where does it all come from? Now, we all went, specifically cities, at the front line of events, went through the past 2 years, which were quite difficult, and we are still in the energy crisis. So we had devastating floods, we had a heat wave across Europe, we had COVID, and now we are in the middle of an energy crisis. And during all these difficult challenges, cities were always at the front line of events. What we have set up therefore on Commission end is the REPowerEU strategy, alongside, of course, and embedded with the Green Deal, generally speaking. So, but making this sort of more relevant and available to cities. Aside of many funding opportunities which are out there, we also are aware that funding will not solve the big challenge of making Europe climate neutral. So what we absolutely need to engage here is private investment to make things happen. And looking specifically at the urban sector, we see that the far biggest part of the urban population, which represents 75% of the EU's population already, lives in cities which are small and mid-sized. That brings us actually to the focus, if you want, of the Smart Cities Marketplace. While the Smart Cities Marketplace as an initiative and a platform is open to all cities of all sizes, and also to all countries coming from all countries which are eligible under the Horizon Europe program, we see a more evident need in small to mid-sized cities, and these cities below inhabitants numbers of 100,000. And this event today shall give you an insight how you, as a city administrator, as possibly a small and mid-sized enterprise in one of those cities, how you can actually enable the rollout, replication, or upscaling of sustainable projects. And that across sectors. So we are not necessarily only looking into energy, but taking fully into account that moving in an urban area, things are very much interrelated and interdependent. So to cut a long story short, today is really to give you the necessary tools to bring your project to the level of maturity which is needed in order to pitch it to an investor. And since we are running an own investor network, you will also have the opportunity to meet some of those investors today, also in the subsequent panel. So with this, no further ado, I keep it short, hopefully. I hope that you will find a lot of inspiration, a lot of insights, a lot of possible new peers and partners you can talk to sort of build up your project idea. And yeah, I'm quite looking forward to the outcomes. And I'm very happy to see so many of you in this event. Thank you very much, and wishing you all success with today's event and with your projects in the near future. Thank you very much. Back to Luigi.
Thank you so much, Georg, for your introductory speech. And so a lot of, as I said, ground to cover, a lot of questions certainly from all of you. And I also have some questions that I think are of common interest that I would like to go through with some estimated colleagues from other initiatives, the investor community that is key for the Smart Cities Marketplace and in general the Smart City universe. So starting from the representative from Summa Capital, who is one of the members of our investor network, I introduce Anthony Macià. He's a civil engineer from the Polytechnic University of Catalonia in Barcelona, graduate in business administration and management with a master's in finance from the EC in Paris, so an international career, as you see. And he has previously worked in several institutions, including the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, so understands very well the needs of financing of the stakeholders that are also here with us present today. Then we have my colleague and friend Frédéric Boyer from Energy Cities. He's here with the head of the coordinator of the Covenant of Mayors. Frédéric graduated in environmental engineering, so he has also a very relevant degree, and has worked in all his professional life mainly with local authorities. He joined Energy Cities in 2009, and which was the perfect match for him to conciliate cities with the energy transition. So also, as for Georg, you see that we have a lot of committed partners and panelists here today. He's heading the Covenant of Major Office since 2015, and he has had, as such, the opportunity to engage and support cities on the one hand, and on the other to advocate also for enabling legislative and financial framework together with his colleagues, which is another argument we're going to discuss later. We have also from the EIT Urban Mobility and partner also in the Smart Cities Marketplace, Luis Puerto, who works as a market development director. And the community of the IT is the largest of mobility innovation in Europe. Sustainable mobility is one of the key topics addressed by the Smart Cities Marketplace together with clean energy and digital solutions. Luis supports startups, SMEs, and businesses in the growth for innovative mobility solutions and matchmaking with interested cities. So he comes also with a very hands-on approach, and this will be very relevant for all of us. I also welcome our colleague from the European City Facility, Dora Biondani. Hello, Dora. Dora works for a Climate Alliance, where she is senior coordinator for the UCF, and also she's involved in the Energy Poverty Advisory Hub. She holds a master's degree in engineering and an MBA in energy and sustainability. Dora also worked both for the profit but also for the non-profit sector, managing international projects on renewable energy, circular economy, and sustainability. So, welcome all of you. I'm very happy to have this panel. It will last more or less until 11 a.m. And the first thing I wanted to throw on the table for discussing with you is what I read the other day that struck my attention on another initiative that couldn't be here with us today, but is still cooperating with us closely, the Net Zero Cities, as you know. And they had a survey with cities where apparently 68% of the participating cities identified the lack of funding and financing schemes as the biggest barrier to pursuing climate neutrality. So the message I got was it is not the lack of will, it is not even the lack of knowledge that primarily are hindering the transition. It is, according to the cities themselves, as Georg said, they are the key engine for the transition. It is the lack of funding and financing. So this barrier, as you know, it is due to several factors. There is an issue of having high initial investment costs that for a small and medium-sized city, for instance, are difficult to accept or afford. There are regulatory and governance barriers regarding also access to the financing. There is sometimes the lack of know-how about how financing simply might work. So how is, I would start with Dora, your initiative, so the UCF supporting cities in addressing this barrier. And then kindly we can go with all the other panelists for a discussion.
Thank you very much. Well, the European Cities Facilities, we are opening different call, and the municipality awarded with each call receive 60,000 euro support to develop their investment concept. As you can imagine, this is a first step, but we are happy to see that in the previous call, cities were able, with this money, to create investment concepts that were self-sustaining. So sometimes providing also the capacity and the connection with some experts that give a look at the budget, at the different incentives and procedures that there are also at national level, give them the chance to develop a self-comprehensive investment concept that it's also already paid. Of course, this can happen for some cities. Other cities, on the other side, develop an investment concept that is only partially covered by these incentives. And in this case, the AUC have put also them in touch with possible investors. So what we also provide is some capacity building and give them some technical skills on how to properly approach investor, either from the public sector or the private sector, and to attract more funds to finance their projects.
Thank you, Dora. Very interesting, the work you are doing, which is also very complementary to the Smart Cities Marketplace. I don't know, Georg, if you want to comment on how, for instance, we do not provide many money, but we provide expertise locally.
Yeah, very quickly and very shortly, of course. Yeah, I mean, the evident interface between the Smart Cities Marketplace and the EUCF is basically at the end of the process, when cities who received funding under the EUCF have finalized their financing plans and investment plans, that we would collaborate with those cities for pitching their project ideas to our investor network, as simple as that. So that we sort of try, if I may say so, fast tracking these investment plans directly into the deal stage, where we hopefully find investors in being interested in that, in financing these concepts. Possible other dimensions of collaboration are, of course, aggregation, so that we kind of bring together a number of cities, and this way increase the ticket size for the investment, but also bring down the inherent risk. So that is a quick answer to the question, but maybe other panelists want to add to this. Thank you, Louis.
Thank you, Georg. And also about the aggregation, we are gonna discuss about it a little bit further too. Luis, in the EIT urban mobility, you work closely also with project developers, and maybe you can offer also your experience on this matter, please.
Yeah, thanks, Luigi. Yeah, at EIT urban mobility, what we do is basically an interface between cities and new innovations that can deliver impact, and of course more focusing on the mobility part. Basically, we have a program called Challenge My City, where we help cities de-risk the deployment of innovative solutions to reduce carbon emissions, basically, because our mission is basically accelerating the transition to sustainable urban mobility. And by this instrument, what we provide is an impact assessment, a pilot that cities can use to test new technologies like micromobility hubs or friendlier cycling infrastructure, etc. This is a way for cities to reduce risk, to learn how to procure in the future these services, and also how to prepare a bankable investment. And for that, for larger scale investments, then we can support them to access specific facilities like the EIB, for instance, with a
Thank
bankable
you so much, Luis. Very
service.
relevant and also complementary to what the Smart Cities Marketplace is doing, for instance, for when it comes to scalability. So an already demonstrated project, the Smart Cities Marketplace can, through its investors network, facilitate the identification of suitable financing or funding solutions for going, let's say, a scale up. Tony, you work in an investor, and often in the interactions that we have with our stakeholders, they say, okay, but you're doing all of this in Europe from the institutional point of view to try and make it easier for cities to actually access the financing and the money, the funding for engaging in the transition. We want to do it. Still, we find it is a bit difficult. What is the investor community doing, adjusting to this trend that there is, on the one hand, the huge demand for financing and investment in green transition, and on the other, there is the opportunities, let's say, that you have to deal with every day?
Thanks, Luigi. No, in our case, we are an infrastructure fund, and we are an impact fund. So we invest in two themes, which is energy transition and circular economy. In energy transition, we have invested in self-consumption, energy efficiency, smart mobility. And the way we try to approach the market and to face this challenge is through backing technical partners, so mainly developers, that they either participate in public tenders and they get a project and they come to us, and if the project is bankable, we can support them on executing them, or pure private investment that they can secure with industries in terms of energy efficiency, or even with retail clients through the creation of self-consumption projects. So we have the way we have been more successful investing has been always through technical partners. Having said that, we try to be close to also to cities For example, like a specific example, I mean, we're based in Barcelona, so the Barcelona City Council has launched a project that is called Barcelona Plus, so Més Barcelona, where it's similar to what you're doing through the European Commission, a matchmaking ban, where their technical partners place projects online, and as investors we are approved and we can look at them. However, sometimes it's quite difficult, either because projects are too small or they are not bankable, or so we have not been so successful in reaching projects to the public side, to have been more successful on backing technical partners to have secured projects.
Thank you, Tony. And we, I think, are all aware of this being a challenge, and that is why in its design, the Smart Cities Marketplace has been conceived to also have an embedded close cooperation with the investor community. That's also why Tony is here with us today, and why behind the scenes we try to see what is possible to make the financing flow, let's say, easier. It is also important to, however, for a city, have an overarching plan, a contract, a strategy that is basically a set of choices, strategic choices for moving forward in the path towards transition. And the Covenant of Mayor has been very, very successful in helping cities and providing cities with this kind of framework. Frederick, would you like to tell us a bit more about how you are accompanying cities into this transition, please?
Yeah, thank you, Luigi, and good morning, everyone. Indeed, the Covenant, we now have around, more than 10,000 municipalities across Europe. So that can be a small village to a capital city, and we have all the capital cities signatories of the Covenant, and the politicians all committed to go beyond the energy and climate objective of the Commission. So now we're talking about climate neutrality, but also resilience to climate change. And Georg reminded us of all the events that happen and that are unfortunately happening more often. And cities are the best location to take action, also because they can engage their community of citizens, stakeholders, and so on. You introduced the difficulty, the fact that cities point access to funding and to financing as an obstacle, and through the 6 networks involved in the Covenant of Mayors and the surveys we've been doing along the years, we also identified similar obstacles, let's say. One of them is clearly the governance and the fact that EU funding programs, national programs, are not reaching the cities, and that's something we're trying to address, and I will tell you how. And another key challenge is the human capacities of cities to deal with the multiple crises we're talking about, from the COVID to the adaptation to climate change to the energy crisis, and there you require different experts. You require engineers who will make the project, but you also need those financial experts who will go and make a bankable project. So, and for that, actually, several of the EU networks involved in the Covenant have launched a manifesto that we call Local Staff for Climate, based on an analysis of how many people we would need in cities to really drive the renovation wave, the change of mobility, public transport system, and also soft mobility and so on. You need those people in the cities to develop the projects and implement them. So the Covenant, yes, very successful in mobilizing and getting the politicians to commit, very good into helping or supporting those cities to develop an action plan. The next step is to put this action plan into motion. It's to implement actions. And this is where we are really, generally speaking, lagging behind. So what do we do to change that? Because again, funding is a key element. Well, first of all, we advocate, and we have a board of politicians that is regularly meeting with the Vice President Timmermans and other commissioners to try to voice that, to say, okay, look, we are committed. We have plenty of projects to implement. We need a huge investment into that. And they perfectly know that the EU cannot finance that alone. So, but using correctly the cohesion policy, the recovery, and so on, funding in order to support the transition of cities. So first, advocating. Then, of course, we organize with our capacities, but also teaming up with you, other initiatives such as Smart Cities Marketplace and others, in order to organize knowledge sharing, peer-to-peer activities, because again, cities need to meet and exchange in order to define new innovative approaches or just to roll out things which are already existing and developed in other places. And very concretely, well, we do webinars, and for that we do tap into the expertise of other initiatives or other stakeholders that we have slowly engaged into the covenant. And finally, a very concrete things. We also have what we call a funding guide. It's a huge matrix translated in 24 languages, where a city can enter and start navigating into the jungle of EU funding programs, which is, as most of us probably know today, or the participants, is pretty difficult, except for a few cities, and it's always the same, and we know the names that know how to navigate that and to get access to LIFE, to get access to Horizon Europe, and so on and so forth. But again, we have 140,000 municipalities across Europe, and we need to support all of them. And that's why, well, the Covenant is teaming up with other initiatives, Net Zero Cities with the mission, in order to, again, extract the good practices and share them with the 10,000 signatories we have across the world, across Europe, sorry.
Thank you so much, Fred. This is very much welcome this point, the cooperation across initiatives. The participants, you may be confused sometimes by the wealth of opportunities that you are presented with, but believe that when I tell you that there is a serious effort in trying to create a seamless user experience behind the scenes, trying to have complementarities, trying to make things easier for you, clearer for you. So, for instance, already in this panel, you see the complementarities emerging linearly across initiatives, and the synergies, and how when engaging into one line, let's say, of cooperation, this does not exclude you to work from the others. This is also important because not all the initiatives work in the same way, and not all offer the same kind of services. Aggregation of demand is key, for instance, in the Smart Cities Marketplace. And we know also that in the EU City Facility, you are doing something for addressing this aspect and making life easier for cities. Can you tell us something about it, Dora, please?
Yes. Well, as I was saying, we are trying to address and combine and exchange information between different cities. I connect with what the colleague of the Covenant said. All cities are different also for dimension and needs. By experience, in the first fourth call we had to the UCF, we noticed an attendance more of small, medium cities. That probably it's where it's more challenging, the needs to access to external expertise to develop their idea. However, we also have bigger cities, and we try to put them in touch and to exchange opinion on what it was, how to develop. Supporting them with the community of practice, where they have the chance to learn of what it is, the different experience. We will see how it's going to be the trend in the upcoming years. The UCF has still 3 calls that we foresee this year and the next year open. And we will look if the trend of addressing more small and medium cities will stay, or if in face of the different challenges Europe has to overcome in the past months, the situation is going to change a little bit. But anyway, we are trying to combine what is happening and provide them the possibility to exchange and learn from each other, learn also from the good investment concept that has already been developed, and how the different experts were able to recalculate and reevaluate the different opportunities to develop a self-standing financial plan.
Thank you, Dora. And Luis, maybe you also would like to contribute to these aspects of the aggregation of demand, because I think it is also very important in the sustainable mobility domain, isn't it?
Yeah, from our experience, I mean, we are a young innovation community. We have been in this business for 4 years already, but with more than 50 pilots in more than 30 cities, we have seen a lot of common interests. Maybe cities with more experience than others, but all of them wanting to provide more sustainable journeys for the citizenship. And we see a lot of common ground in investing in mobility hubs, so making first and last mile journeys more sustainable by bike, for instance, connecting with public transport, maybe making public transport frequencies and punctuality more efficient. I mean, those environmentally friendly waste collection vehicles, all of those are common needs from many cities, and then aggregating those demands from smaller cities that have less experience is one of the great opportunities that we see. There is a lot to learn in terms of making policy changes to procure effectively those services, which sometimes are innovative, and procurement practices are not prepared for that in many cities. But learning from the forerunners is something that, of course, we can provide, and also by piloting those potential solutions, cities can learn how to procure better. But learning from each other is one of the great opportunities we see. And then aggregating demand in common investment plans, this is also possible. And we believe that this should be one of the ways forward in the future.
Thank you very much, Luis. Also, this Smart Cities Marketplace is dedicating a lot of attention into this personalized approach that you mentioned earlier with our customer journeys. It is totally for free. So just to not correct, just to clarify this, the matchmaking services that the Smart Cities Marketplace provides are totally for free. But they try and be tailored to the needs of the different stakeholders. They range from events like the ones we are having now today, where basically you can meet, you can network, you can also get access to information, get access to examples of good practice that you can replicate, scale up, be inspired from. But also we have on the other stream one-to-one consultancy services in the technical, legal, financial, and governance aspect. So what Frederick was mentioning earlier resonated with me as well when he mentioned the need for cities to have expertise available to pass from strategy into action. And this is very much one of the reasons why the Smart Cities Marketplace has been set up. These services are provided upon demand through the application form that you will find online. My colleagues will share in the chat the link to the correct website. And they, when accepted, the service is provided locally. So although the Smart Cities Marketplace does not give you any grants like the EU CF is doing, which is very good, sometimes having the money is not enough because the expertise maybe is not available immediately. The Smart Cities Marketplace tries to complement this by having a wide network of experts that we can mobilize into your city to help you in all the aspects I mentioned earlier with making your project a success. Tony, coming back to the need for aggregating demand, can you give please a couple of examples or reasons why a city would be benefiting from associating with a technical partner for developing a project in getting financing, and why a consortium approach, like the one promoted by the Smart Cities Marketplace, having several, and also other initiatives, having several cities joining forces for engaging into an investment concept would have higher chances to find, let's say, favorable response on their financing request.
Perfect, thank you, Luigi. So the way we have saved this barrier in the past has been always, as I mentioned before, through technical partners. For example, we have invested in public lighting. Public lighting, there are long-term contracts, but each municipality has its own small tenders. So as investor, it's impossible to participate there and have the risk to lose because we have very limited resources. So the way we do it, it's through technical partners that we set up what we call ESCO, like the energy services companies, and we aggregate these contracts through different municipalities so we can reach an agreement of, an aggregate of investment amount that it's worthy for us to invest in. So that's a hard work that is done through technical partners, going through all different administrations and making it easy for us. Where we have been successful. However, it will be useful. And we have seen some initiative in Italy, for example, in terms of public lighting, trying to do a standard contracts and aggregating the needs of different cities, putting it all together and then set up tenders. When tenders are big enough, then investment funds can back up technical partners on these tenders, because if you get the tender, the amount justifies, the effort. If it's too small, then we need the technical partners take the risk and then aggregate it themselves and then coming back to us. So for us, I think it's key. At the end of the day, size, it's something that is very important, to attract different or higher sophisticated investors that can have the resources to invest time on analyzing these projects.
Thank you, Tony. So basically, size matters indeed. And it is important also to be well sorted with your partners, having, let's say, the right cities with a governance that works, the right combination of public and private entities also involved. And later today, this afternoon, there will be several examples presented to all of you that you can take an inspiration from. But I don't want to now break the suspense. Private sector engagement, so it is also key. It has been mentioned by you several times before, and this is also another element hindering the transition towards climate neutrality. So the public alone cannot succeed, not because of lack of resources, but sometimes it is the lack of expertise, the lack of knowledge about the technological or technical solutions that need to be implemented. The operational knowledge as well, sometimes it is key. So what is, Luis, your initiative doing into this area to address this challenge?
This is a fundamental part of our activity. We are specialists in connecting with an innovator community, be it large or medium or small businesses, startups as well. And our specialization is to matchmake with city needs, so that the cities are able to learn how to incorporate innovative approaches to make journeys more sustainable for their citizenship. And therefore, since this expertise and the new approaches come from the private sector, it's important for them to learn how to work with these new solutions, because many times they find obstacles from an administration point of view on how to procure these innovations, that sometimes they lack sufficient track record that cities need, because cities need to procure services that can be delivered with efficiency and safety, security for the citizens. So they need to learn, and also the innovators need to learn how to work with cities. So this cooperation between both sides is fundamental, because each part is adding something that the other part is missing.
Okay, thank you, Luis. Frederick, also the Covenant of Mayor, working with city, being, let's say, really an accelerator of engagement and determination from especially cities and the public sector into the transition. I'm sure among the aspects that you mentioned are now under focus, notably how to translate all these movements into action and results and impacts. There is also several considerations and plans for involving more closely the private sector. Would you like to tell us something about what you are planning?
Yeah, thank you, Luigi. Indeed, I mean, the covenant with this community of thousands of local and regional authorities engaged has been from the beginning attracting the interest of investors. Together with the Commission, again, since we are running a service for DG Energy and DG Climate Action now, we were very cautious not to give commercial interest or preference to any company. But we've been teaming up. We developed a concept that we call associated partners, and we have a list of industry association from the renewable energy sector, mobility, and so on, that are together with us helping to actually organize this knowledge sharing. So when we want to organize, I don't know, support cities to develop a sustainable urban mobility plan, we will team up with networks of cities working on mobility, but also other initiatives in order to provide some kind of technical guidance that we also try to collect in the form of different case studies and guidance. But of course, that's not enough. Again, there's such a diversity of context in Europe from one country to another in terms of the competences of local authorities, their financial and human capacities, that more recently, within the last, let's say, 4 or 5 years, and again, together with the support of the Commission, we're trying to go more national, because we see that we need to unlock. The covenant has been successful, developed on a bottom-up basis, but you clearly see that if you don't get the national authorities on board, you don't remove the obstacles that cities are facing. So we put a lot of focus on that, and to go even more deeper. That's not the case for all the countries, but I think Tony mentioned Italy. Well, typically the big success of the covenant in some countries such as Italy, Spain, Belgium is due to the what we call in the EU jargon the multi-level governance. We have regions, provinces, metropolitan area that are being engaged into the covenant, not necessarily as a signatory, but as what we call a coordinator. And they commit politically to provide technical financial assistance. Some of them have those regional energy agencies with technical engineers, but also financial experts that can help what the colleagues have been describing, bundling projects together. Because of course you cannot expect a small town of 4,000 inhabitants to have someone who can develop a bankable project. The banks would not be interested by the level of investment. So you need this kind of regional approach is obviously the most efficient, because there can be a public authority providing, bundling together, providing the technical assistance. And again, another very good example, using regional and cohesion policy funds for that. And we have, I mean, I'm not going to give the concrete examples, but we have plenty of them. And this is very successful, and this is a model we want to try to export, because again, the regions, when they exist, they don't exist in all countries. But those decentralized regions are very efficient into supporting particularly the small and medium towns that, again, we should not forget.
Thank you so much, Frederick. So basically the accent is on the huge diversification of entities in the European Union and beyond, and having an institutional framework where subnational entities have some exclusive or shared legislative competencies is one of the elements that facilitates the, let's say, uptake of solutions for accelerating the transition. This is the message I get from you. I mean, I'm Italian. I can definitely see what you're talking about. So also having worked in the regional administration for some years. But certainly better than me, Georg may have an overview of this aspect and also of what the Commission is doing to work, let's say, in an integrated manner in this important challenge.
Yeah, thank you, Luigi. Basically, two aspects. One is the aspect of small and mid-sized enterprises, which in Europe represent more than 99% of the businesses. So there is clearly a reason for including these entities into our sort of narrative and our approach when it comes to cities. Also, in many cases, that's what I learned. Projects in cities are oftentimes initiated by these companies. So it's not necessarily the city hall administrators which initiate a process or a planning process or a project idea or something, but they get sort of aware of solutions fitting their needs coming from SMEs, local SMEs mostly, introducing to these solutions. So SMEs is an important pillar, or companies of that size, because we also have that specific focus on small and mid-sized cities. There is an initiative with which we also collaborate. That's the Covenant of Companies. Just to mention it, I'm not going to introduce that initiative here, but just to mention that there is also some work ongoing on that aspect. And then the second thing I want to react to is the multi-level governance discussion. This is a high priority also, like in-house on my end of the spectrum, because we are looking now into the update of the National Energy and Climate Action Plans. By June this year, the first drafts or the updated drafts are expected, and then there is a bit of a process to it. But what we would like to inform is also here a much stronger relevance of the local level in each member state, so that member states really see cities or local authorities as partners when it comes to the clean energy transition and beyond, just transition, energy poverty, and all the other challenges we already mentioned in this panel. And a third point, if you allow, that goes a bit back in the discussion, but you will hopefully forgive me for that. When we talk about solutions, when we talk about peer learning and exchange and good practice, knowledge exchange and that stuff, we should also not forget that we build also on the 18 lighthouse projects which were funded in the frame of H2020, already providing, if you want, a sandboxing exercise, because what we had there is a couple of cities, 120, which experimented exactly that. That is, they collaborated on local level with banks, with investors, with SMEs, with City Hall and citizens to make things happen locally. And so just mentioning this because we are, of course, not reinventing the wheel. What we want is really rollout of things which do work, which can be picked off the shelf and be implemented or replicated at local level. So I stop here because I think I'm already eating too much time in this panel, but thanks for giving me the opportunity.
It is fine. Thank you very much. You're very relevant. Also referring to the Lighthouse project. Also, in the future events, we will have most likely the Net Zero Cities joining us. It was unfortunately not possible today for a conflict of agendas, but we will make it happen shortly. And this, I think, will add also an additional element of interest for our participants. Dora, would you like also to comment about the private sector engagement? What kind of assistance you provide through the UCF to make, let's say, a partnership more solid from this point of view?
Sure. Well, the colleague talked more about the private sector considering as small, medium enterprises. I would say as UCF, when we look at private sector, we are considering more private banking institution that can support and have been paired with the investment concept developed. For us, what we are trying to do is to provide the skills and let the cities understand the differences of when you approach more public investments and when on the other side you're approaching more private banking and private institution. The way you channel the investment concept, the way you communicate what you are looking for, it's completely different. So what we are trying, it's more to frame and underline what are the different keywords they have to use when approaching a private sector for looking for investment, more than working with small, medium enterprises.
Thank you so much, Dora. I think it is very relevant. I see that there is already a question from our audience. And the question is about the point we were addressing before on the aggregation of demand from small and medium-sized cities. And I think maybe Tony can first comment, but then everyone is invited to do so. And the question is about what is the relevant size. 5 cities, 10 cities, and cities. Maybe you can give some directions.
Yes. Well, I think it's not about the cities. It's about capital. So I would say that I guess the minimum threshold, it should be above maybe 20 to 30 million and above. That's where institutional investors starts to get interest. When you go below that, it's different. It's difficult to find at least private funding for that.
Thank you, Tony. So basically, it's not the number that makes it work, but it is the quality of the investment and then the size of the ticket that basically is how much financial resources are involved that generate an appetite for an investor to engage, also given the risk. With regards to public funding, obviously, there are different solutions in the investor network. We have 17 or 18 now, I think, investors who have joined our network. And a useful piece of information may be that they work, including Summa Capital, they work with different tickets. So there are very large ones, smaller ones. So the Smart Cities Marketplace is totally agnostic with regards to, we don't have a party, let's say, or a religion, with regards to what is the right size of the investment. We try to facilitate matching with different investors in the way that then the investment works. But it is very important that what Tony said is remembered. So the size of the investment is key. I don't know if Luis you want to contribute.
Maybe Luigi, if I can add on that.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was mentioning this figure because I mean below these targets, normally are the technical partners who need to aggregate projects and make it more complex. So at the end of the day, investment teams normally are small, and we always look for high successful rates. You know, when you look at the deal, we don't like when you have small chances because we have very limited teams. It's not like for technical partners where they have commercial teams that go across cities to reach projects. In our case, we need to select very well what we look at. And normally, you know, minimum funds, it's the target I set. Of course, if you go, you know, even bigger than that, the more institutional investors you get, the highly the chances to get private funding.
Thank you, Tony. Luis, maybe also a word from you, and then if you can, because we're approaching the end of this interesting panel, and the participants are all about to engage into networking throughout the rest of the day, and then in a series of parallel sessions on project financing, as I mentioned in the introduction, public procurement as a means to accelerate city business cooperation in projects, examples of clean energy projects and approaches, and then also the implementation experience of sustainable mobility solutions that you certainly, Luis, are in charge of. You're organizing the session. What are also two or three recommendations that you would like to give our public regarding how to design, replicate, or scale up a good bankable and sustainable project?
Yeah, well, firstly, with regard to the last question on aggregating and what is the ideal number, of course, that will depend on the investor profile, but I agree with Tony that the 30 million threshold, just a rule of thumb, can be important. And also importantly, that doesn't have to be a one-time investment. It can be distributed across some years. It could be 3-4 years of continued investment. So for those 30 millions could be 7.5 per year over a 4-year period, for instance. And then it doesn't have to be really homogeneous in terms of the projects. There could be a bundle of charging points infrastructure with innovative public transport software and control centers. I mean, there can be a bundle of different climate action projects that have impact and bundled together. So there is flexibility here in terms of the type of project, the time frame, and also, of course, the profile of the investor. That's what I wanted to add on top of what has been already pointed out. And then in terms of recommendations, one thing that is, I think it's super important and has been mentioned several times during this panel is knowledge exchange. Many of our attendants today don't have the previous experience, but others have. So share and learn from others that have gone through this before is very important in order to leapfrog key learnings, how to do this faster. Also get advice, and that's why the Smart Cities Marketplace is here for, to get a technically sound project and financially bankable project. And this is an excellent facility to get that support. And finally, I would say in terms of procuring, why not bringing together big and small players because procuring needs to be a very safe process for cities in order to deliver good services for citizenship. And normally large businesses are good at this. They have the processes, the structure, they're strong in delivering mainstream services. But if they partner up with the smaller businesses that have more innovative solutions, but they lack the structure maybe to deliver, that is a good solution. This partnering up between large and a smaller business in a joint procurement towards the city. That would be another recommendation for cities to undertake. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Luis. Frederick, one recommendation?
Only one is tough, but just to close the loop with what I said in the introduction on the challenges. Cities need to access, they need to have qualified people. So either you train, you hire qualified people to run your transition, or you tap into a regional energy agency or other initiatives. The point also in asking to Smart Cities Marketplace support is very relevant. And another one, quickly, as city representative, give your political voice to national or EU networks so that there can be advocacy. As Georg mentioned before, we need to repeat to the decision makers at EU level. I think they are starting to hearing the message, but also at national level, that the cities are their allies for the transition. If you don't get the cities on board, you will never do the transition to climate neutrality in Europe. So important to give the political voice so that we can lobby for financial and legal framework which is helping municipalities to do their transition.
A powerful message. Thank you, Frederick. Dora?
Only one or more? No, I try to be...
one, you can, let's say, go with the flow.
It's okay. I think my colleague already said the two of the three I had in mind. So I will focus on being concise, especially looking at the meeting they have of 15 minutes. Try to be clear on what are you looking for, what are you selling, and to who are you talking and selling it. Because this is a pair. The time, it's really important. And it's a matter to channel at the best the message you want to achieve. And then I mirror the advice of my colleagues.
Thank you, Dora. Very, very practical and indeed true. Tony, and then Georg, please.
Yeah, so trying to be quick. So and that's related to cities, you know. So for me, first one you said, right, bankable projects, so stable frameworks, acceptable bands of risk. You know, if it's venture projects, so give a bit of support. You know, if they are more mature, then that's not required. So first, it's bankability, that's for sure, and size. Secondly, it's that technically sound and good quality of the information provided on these tenders. And third one, it's a straightforward process, like that the price leads clear, that the authorization are quick, like speed, that's very important for investors.
Thank you, Tony. Straight to the point and indeed fast. Georg, also, I think it is useful to have a few words from you as recommendations for our audience, and then we can invite everyone to take a coffee break for 15 minutes and then join the parallel sessions as from 11:15. Please, Georg.
Sure. Thank you. Well, first of all, I think that the message could also be from my end, worry not, because we want to get you into this process of thinking about projects. And while this panel has been very clear about the ticket size, the ideal ticket size, and also the level of knowledge which is needed to run a successful project, I guess that the marketplace is actually keen to help exactly with that. So putting key knowledge which gets you into the process, into the learning curve at your fingertips, and then later on in the process helping you to really shape and finance your project. With all the partner initiatives we are collaborating with, of course. So it's not only the marketplace, but it's also all the initiatives we collaborate with, some of which we have invited to this panel, which is great. So again, I just repeat what I said at the beginning. Wishing you much success, and don't worry, you have a lot of help. You see all the expertise in this panel, but then you have also some of the experts, of course, of the marketplace to help you with what you have in mind. So success and worry not. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Georg. And also, I wish to thank you personally, all the panelists here today. So Tony, Frederick, Luis, Dora, it has been really a pleasure and an honor to discuss with you today. Georg, obviously, also this goes to you. And we will certainly repeat the experience to continue our cooperation also in other events. For the information of the audience, matchmaking events are repeated 4 times a year. Again, please check our call for applications on the website. It is still open. You're very welcome to join. It is absolutely free, for free and easy to fill in. And it is also, you receive a guidance, and then this gives you access to all the services of the matchmaking that are explained on the website.